for another video. My name is Josh Cassick, and today is my Dai-Guard review. Now this is an interesting anime because it's about office workers saving the world. Now the main kind of villains in this story is monster-like creatures called the Heterodynes, and they kind of come from another dimensional / world. And they come to our world because, well, you know how earthquakes are created, right? You know you have two plates, they interlock and they cause, right? Well, in a certain way, if the plates interact in this version of the world and not ours, obviously, it opens a crack in space-time, opening a connection between the Heterodyne's dimension and our dimension, and one of the Heterodynes will go through, and this, and then come to our world, and they obviously have to come back. Well, 13 years before the show take place, the Heterodyne first appeared, and the military, now this is in Japan, and the military created a robot called the Dai-Guard to combat them. And eventually the Heterodyne disappeared. Well, keeping this robot, cost the military money. So they gave the robot to a company called the 21st Century Defense Corporation under their Public Relations Division 2. And it became a kind of a promotional gimmick for the company. It never used for battle. It was just there, it was put on display just for people to take pictures and stuff like that. Well, in a particular day, they're kind of doing a huge promotion for it. For the public relations were doing it when a Heterodyne reappeared, and the military came in, with Sherita, a character leading the group of the military, to combat the Heterodyne, but nothing was working, and people were kind of trapped, and people needed to escape and everything, and people were getting injured from this Heterodyne. So a guy named Akagi, who kind of wanted fame or something to do with his life, and which eventually turns into kind of a justice type thing where he wants to save people. And so he goes against orders and gets into the Dai-Guard, and he convinces two friends / co-workers, Ibuki and Aoyama, to join him into the Dai-Guard. Now originally they were just going to put a path away to for the people to escape, but they eventually had to battle the Heterodyne. Unfortunately, they were able to defeat it but not destroy it, and this causes them to. Well, the next mission is to get everyone to escape, and so they use planes and stuff to escape again against orders, and then they are able to save everyone, but the Heterodyne kind of follows them, and once they get back to headquarters, they get the Dai-Guard again and actually destroy the Heterodyne this time. So it's a very interesting in that aspect, but even though they kind of broke orders and they cost the company millions, they are still Dai-Guards, the only one who can combat these Heterodynes. So they weren't fired, and they got reprimanded, but they did help destroy the Heterodyne, so nothing really bad happens to them, and they became pilots of the Dai-Guard. Now Aoyama tries to quit because he didn't really join this company to fight the Heterodyne or whatever, but he even left, but he realized that he needed to help his friends, and so he comes back to pilot the Dai-Guard to defeat Heterodynes. And his entire really stake here, now he's kind of a player hitting on girls and stuff like that, and everyone assumes that well, when he leaves all the time or takes work off, he's going off to go out with a girl. But in actual reality, he's there to he's actually going to the hospital to help out his sick mother. and he wouldn't tell his friends or coworkers that, which really puts a conflict, with them, because they feel like he's just skipping on work to meet some girl, and that this kind of hurts him because he knows the truth, and the fact that they're saying that to him and that they don't understand, but he wouldn't tell them to understand, but eventually they all find out about his mother anyway. But that's kind of another thing. And like I said, Akagi's entire thing, he's a loudmouth and stuff, and it turns, and he's a loudmouth, like, he doesn't really have this sense of work or whatever. He just wants to be someone, and like that's why he does the Dai-Guard, as I said. But he, turns into a justice. And, like, for instance, at one moment, a guy got trapped on one of the Dai-Guards, and he was ordered just to destroy the Heterodyne and, kill the guy to save the many. But his justice, no. I'm going to not only save that guy, but everyone as well at the same time. And so that's what he did, and he destroyed the Heterodyne, breaking orders. Now, Shirata, he joins the company to help them with orders and stuff, like, to guide them into battle, but he's really there to kind of help the military now, because they want the Dai-Guard back, but because of contracts they can't take it back, and then even help create the military, create their new robot for themselves. And this kind of makes a conflict as well. But Shirata learns Akagi's perspective. Akagi even helped Shirata learn his perspective by allowing him to pilot the Dai-Guard. And Shirata actually pilots the Dai-Guard twice. Another moment was when Akagi was injured in the hospital, and so Shirata took up the mantle to pilot the Dai-Guard to battle. And so another conflict, obviously Shirata eventually, understands Akagi's perspective and kind of breaks against his mentality of orders and all this stuff. It gets to the point where he's almost court-martial at the end of the series, but everything works out for him. And another conflict with the characters is that because they cost the company so much money, a guy in the board, as well as some other board people, because this is a big company, so you have a board, wanted to become, president, so take out the current president because of how much money is being lost. And the board voted on it, and the president goes away, and that guy becomes the new president. And he actually decides to split Division 2 up and give the Dai-Guard new pilots and everything, and even brought in one of Shirata's former lackeys or trainees that Shirata trained to kind of also be a problem with the thing. But it turns out that eventually that new president was actually costing the company even more money, and so they actually relieved him of his presidency and brought back the old president. And so there's a lot of conflicts, having to balance, piloting the Dai-Guard as well as balancing, the actual work that they do, paperwork and all that stuff, and as well as have to deal with the military and other people trying to take the Dai-Guard away from them. So it's a very interesting perspective. I think it's definitely a unique perspective for the show, to show what office work is like, but as well as trying to save the world. I think it's never been done before, and I think it was definitely a bold and interesting idea to do for the show that I think they paid off brilliantly. Also, another character, so we kind of showed about what Aoyama's and Akagi's thing, but what about Ibuki? She, her whole reason to piloting was to revenge against the Heterodyne for killing her father. See, her father was a researcher on these earthquakes and stuff like that, and one day he, goes to a site where Heterodyne appeared, and he gets killed. And her identity and all this is based on him being a hero and everything, and trying to help the world. But in actual reality, a scientist, a 7-year-old scientist, she's a genius, I don't know, but but she kind of gives Ibuki the truth, and this kind of puts a perspective on her because it breaks her entire identity to the core. That her father's no hero. He was just searching for his science. The Heterodyne was all just science to him, and that's all he cared about. And that's really the problem with her. And because of this, she puts her Akagi and Aoyama endangered. They even get injured. It's really bad. But her stepfather, which she originally did not have a good relationship with, he did not like the fact that she was piloting the Dai-Guard because he didn't want her to get hurt or everything like that. But he understands as a doctor, because that's what he is, he found his way of trying to save people. And he realized that that's what Ibuki's doing. She's saving people. She's helping people out. And, she didn't have that perspective because all it was to her was revenge. But because he helped her see that she's helping people, that gave her a new perspective, a new way of thinking of why she pilots this Dai-Guard. And this allows her to break out of her funk and actually pilot the Dai-Guard to save people. And that's pretty, I think, and this allows her to have a better relationship with her stepfather. I think that is a really good aspect to the character. And so I think everything about this show is just, I think, really good. The story is really good, well written. The characters are really interesting, I think, as well as well written. And it's just, I think it's comedic but also serious. And I think, and because they balance both a office work as well as saving the world, it really is a very interesting show that I do recommend. I wish there was some maybe romance into it. I like romance subplots, not the main story, because those are cheesy, and obviously, unless it's a tragedy like Romeo and Juliet, the two characters are going to end up together. So I like a subplot because it's not the main story, but it's within the story. I would like that. I think if that was in it, I think Akagi would end up with Ibuki, or maybe another kind of girl in their office, because there was a kind of a connection between him and another character. They kind of developed Aoyama with another girl in Division 2, which would be interesting. And they kind of implied that the scientist is dating another guy in the company as well. I don't know. It's more of implied. They called each other kind of couple names and stuff like that. So it's that kind of type of thing. But other than that, there are families, like we know that people are married and have children, some of them as well, not in Division 2 but in the company and other stuff. But it's like I said, I wish that it had something like that, but it doesn't. I get why it doesn't have that, because it's really not necessarily the type of show for that. But other than that, that's kind of my only gripe about it. But like I said, I really enjoyed it. I recommend it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified from the next upload. My YouTube channel, website link, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram are all in the description as always. And thank you. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.